In the past few years, we've heard the term free agents and been told we would all need to become one in order to succeed. The recent economic structures have helped to promote this concept as reality. Where do we get the tools to take control of our career path in the present and future? Welcome to the Career Confidant with your host, Marie Zimenoff. Marie and her guest experts are here to provide you with the tools you need to move forward and achieve your career goals. Now, here is Marie Zimenoff.
Hello and welcome to the Career Confidant, and we're glad that you're here. And this is such a hot topic right now. I'm seeing everything everywhere about branding. But how do you actually do that? How do you stand out online? How do you make an impact in your world? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we have a great guest with us, Kate Pazesnik. And Kate is hi, Kate. We are going to be talking about digital branding and some of the new things in digital branding. And Kate, you come from a marketing background. Kind of tell me a little bit about how you got into the career space.
Oh, well, let's give the Reader's Digest version. I actually started in this business because I had noticed that my CIO clients that I had been selling to struggled to articulate their value, whether their goal was to achieve a specific title, such as CIO or VP, or they were looking to earn a higher salary, commensurate more with their responsibilities. And so when I identified that need and started doing some research, I actually ran into an executive coach that I had worked with when I was in marketing and sales, and he started his own executive coaching firm and asked me if I'd be interested in doing some personal branding for his clients, which also happened to be CIOs. So that was really my introduction in wanting to help other professionals brand themselves, market themselves, and be able to articulate the value that they bring to the table.
Yes. And we're seeing, like I said, we're seeing this huge conversation about branding right now, and everybody seems to be talking about it. But it's different, right? Things have changed. And especially with online branding, it's become more and more important. Why is that happening?
Well, I think part of it is that depending on what your goal is, but let's just say for this conversation that your goal is to find a position or a new job. Employers are looking increasingly at people's digital presence or online presence to determine whether or not that person is a good fit, not only from a qualification standpoint, but also a good cultural fit. So I think that's one of the big things. And I think just the increasing reliance on technology and the web and AI tools means that we have to have an increased presence because more and more people are looking for resources, human resources, using online tools.
Right. It's been funny. I've seen some recruiters talking about, these new tools, and you make sure your digital presence is good because we're using like Seek Out and Find Them and all these tools to go over the web, not just LinkedIn or LinkedIn Recruiter, but all these tools capture across the web. And I was like, well, welcome to the conversation. We've been talking about this since 2018 because Find Them and Seek Out, right? They weren't AI enabled maybe the same way they are now, but that technology has existed and has been being used for a long time. In fact, the gentleman from Seek Out that came and spoke to us, he had started doing this work in the early 2000s. Obviously, the technology has evolved, making it easier to find people. But that's why, we're talking about how important it is to kind of get found. So let's talk about those key elements. What is important for people to be able to get found online?
Well, I think one of the main, more obvious tools to leverage would be social media. And for many people, that would be LinkedIn, whether you're a career coach or you are a job seeker, then social media platforms is really where you want to establish a robust presence. And that's where I would start. That would be one place, but it's also establishing what your personal brand is, what you value, what your mission is as an individual and as a professional. So it's really digging into who am I? What do I want to be known for? And what do I want other people to think or feel when they see my name or my picture?
Yeah, I love that. So people start with, oh, where am I going to be and what platforms? But then we back up and we say, who are you?
Yeah.
What do you
What do
want to
I
be known
put?
for? Right. And who needs to know you? Because we're not all trying to become influencers and have millions
Yeah.
of followers. We want to have the right people see us. And to be able to choose that, we have to know who are those people, right? So what
Yes.
else kind of goes into that foundation of the brand?
Well, I think taking along with that is not only knowing who your target audience is, but really understanding what they're looking for in a candidate, in a resource, in an employee is really getting a grasp on those things and getting clarity. I would also say that leveraging some tools is also going to be critical in putting yourself out there outside of social media. So it's becoming familiar with generative AI tools, not only necessarily to brand yourself, but to make sure that your branding is consistent.
Yeah, so that we were talking about this too with those systems that find people, especially for recruiters. The more consistency the person has, the more likely their profile will be found and kind of differentiated from all of the other people with similar names, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and plus, you don't want someone to come across your LinkedIn profile and then find your personal, for example, a personal portfolio, and the two materials don't jive. They're not cohesive. And so that can be problematic because the person viewing your materials online is confused. Who is this person? Are they the person that we're looking for, or are they unsure? Because that sense of ambiguity could cost you opportunities that having a very refined and consistent brand could help you find.
Well, so this is interesting because in our Facebook group, we have a colleague Facebook group for career services providers. And in that group this week, someone was saying they are working with a UI UX designer. So, a techie person, marketing, who wanted to start a business. And I'm not going to say the name or the type of business because it's really specific, but it's very niche, right? It's like a counseling niche, way separate from UI UX design, user experience design. And so they were talking about, do you put both things on the LinkedIn profile or not? So kind of tell me what your thoughts are there with you think of this idea of brand consistency and being able to say, oh, yes, this person and this person are the same. What would you have that person do in terms of their LinkedIn profile, but then in maybe other places where they might be promoting this kind of counseling business that's very different than their work?
Ooh, this is a good one. Wow, you really brought out the big guns for this conversation. That I think this is a challenge that a lot of people face, particularly because there's such a large increase in people who are not only employees, but also have some type of side hustle or gig moonlighting that they do. And so they're confused. What do I put online? Because you want to make sure that you're appealing to both those audiences, right? Potential employers and potential customers. I've had this challenge with lots of clients in the past. And one thing that I advise is, and this is not the most fun answer, but it's an honest one, is really getting clear on which of those avenues are you more invested in. I would first try to prioritize and figure out, is it going to be more fulfilling and lucrative financially to go in this direction or this direction? So I think that you can have both of those endeavors on your LinkedIn profile, but I would try to find some kind of common theme to tie why those two different jobs or occupations work well together, how they complement each other, or how doing one job makes you better at the other, because you're going to have to explain that there's some kind of connection there. That's what I think is the most I think that's the most straightforward approach, is either choosing which one is going to be most important and really putting most of your eggs in that basket, or finding some kind of way to tell the story, particularly like in an about summary on LinkedIn, about why that part of your journey makes sense.
Yeah, and this is branding, right? So, kind of depending on your view, you might see the 30,000 foot view in the big picture. Who are you and what are your strengths, and then how do those show up in both of those worlds?
Mm-hmm.
Or different worldview is kind of like the foundation, right? What are those foundational pieces of who you are, and then how do those spring into these two different things? And that could be the story in the about section. Then most people were recommending that this person put their side hustle as a project or something that is not high profile on LinkedIn, but is on LinkedIn just in case there's an opportunity. But I think you're thinking about audience. So if my main audience on LinkedIn is hiring managers for this UI UX thing, not necessarily customers for my B2C business, because LinkedIn is much more B2B. So especially if their business is B2C, then it's not going to make that much sense to really highlight it on LinkedIn. But if you have an Instagram account for your B2C business, this counseling business, if people find you on Instagram, you want them to be able to connect the dots on LinkedIn. You were saying this earlier, and it kind of gave me this aha moment about this situation, is if they don't have anything about their side hustle on LinkedIn, it may be assumed that these are two separate people.
Yeah.
Now, that assumption could benefit the candidate if they really are separate, or that assumption could hurt the candidate if there's some goodness that they could get from someone finding them on Instagram under this different business idea too. So,
right. Yeah, it is. I think it's partly a case by case basis too. Really depends what those two endeavors are, depends where audiences of each of those, or the client audience or employer audience resides. So I like your suggestion of knowing who your audience is, where they spend their time, where your product or service, and that could be yourself, should be offered or is sought after, then those things all kind of come into play. And I wouldn't say there's hard and fast rules necessarily for how I would approach that situation with every client. Yes. So I like that.
Yeah. And the example kind of walks people through what we do in the personal branding process, right? It's who are you? What are you marketing? Self, towards employment or business. And then who's the audience? Because that is going to drive the messaging that you choose from that authentic messaging, which is where we're going to go next, as well as the platform that you choose. So we talk about this in our Certified Digital Branding Strategist program. If you're in the career space, we run the program live twice a year, or you can join us self-paced and then join the next live class whenever. But it gives you a chance to go through this process for yourself, then also have all the tools to do it with a client. Who are they? What do they want to be known for? And then how are they going to show up online to connect those dots? So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what's changed because of AI and how you can keep your online presence powerful while you're maybe using some of those tools to help you, but maintaining that authenticity. So we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Follow Voice America at facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are tuned in to the Career Confidant with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please send an email to Marie at strategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidant.
So welcome back to the Career Confidant. And today we've been talking to Kate Pozesnik about how you can improve your digital presence and how it's going to help you with finding a job, building a business, getting consulting gigs, whatever it might be that you're looking to do in your career or in your business. So Kate, we were talking about how we kind of delve in here about digital branding and why people need to be there and the foundation. Who are you? What do you want to be known for? But then we mentioned that not people just, they're not getting it, right? And that
Right.
So tell me, you had a client recently. What was their situation?
Yeah. Well, I was just talking to someone actually earlier today, and I looked at their LinkedIn profile while we were on the call together, and this person did not have a headshot profile headshot, nor did they have any type of banner outside the generic banner on LinkedIn. And they also had, I think, 160 connections. And the first thing I said to this person is I said, if certain people came onto your LinkedIn profile and they saw these things that they were lacking, even a picture or very many connections, I said, there's a chance that you come across as looking like a bot, that you're not even a real person. I mean, that's just one small thing to consider, but it is a reality. For one thing, according to Glassdoor, 79% of job seekers are using social media when they're conducting a job search, which means if you're not either present or leveraging social media platforms, you're going to be left behind. And this isn't just for job seekers. If you think about the last service or product you invested in, where did you find that product or service? Chances are you did some online research before you committed.
Yeah. Well, and I just had a thought as you were talking, because we were talking about the impact of AI on branding. And I honestly hadn't even thought about it this way, but more and more fake accounts on LinkedIn. I was just looking that it's like 25% of accounts on LinkedIn are fake.
Wow.
And so one of the impacts, I think, of AI is more fake accounts, which means if you don't have things on there, just like you were saying, you might be seen as a fake account.
Right.
Even though you're not.
Right.
And so that headshot, making sure that's public to everyone, get some content, have some recommendations, some posts, some comments. Those are the things I look for when I'm trying to decide if an account is real or a bot. What are some other things that you look for?
Well, one of them is you sort of just mentioned, which is looking at the content on a social media profile. For example, on LinkedIn, there's an option in the about summary for AI to write it, or I think it even before the AI option was included, it would just create a blurb, a 4 or 5 sentence blurb based on the limited content you had included on your profile. When I see that, I think either someone didn't put in a lot of effort. It's usually quite generic. So I really don't get a sense of what kind of employee, what kind of, person that they are. And it's also very brief. So you don't get a lot of information. So I think that's, one of the big things that I'm looking for is, is there identifying information that makes this person unique? Because that's another thing that you need to stand out, especially with there being so much AI generated content or bots out there. You need to make sure that what you are including is somewhat authentic and specific, I think is maybe even a better word to use.
Yes, I always tell people if you could copy someone's summary in their LinkedIn profile, or, sometimes we're talking about resumes, if you could copy that and put it in someone else's profile, it's not good. You got to start over, put in some specifics, like you should have a few of your own stories. Why did you get into this type of work? How else do you help people get specific, especially in that summary area that can get a little fluffy?
Well, and I think too, the more specific and robust you can make your online presence, the more eventually the happier you're going to be, because you are going to attract the right opportunities, the right jobs, the right people. Your tribe are going to be attracted because everything you've put out there is uniquely you, your stories, your experiences, your skills. And so you are going to find yourself getting the right jobs, which is going to make you overall more content because you're doing something that aligns to your skill set and your interests and probably where you fit in terms of culture.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So in the digital branding class, we teach the 4 stories, right? You've got kind of the origin story. Why did you get into this? The passion story, which is why do you keep doing it, right? What do you love about it now? The accomplishment story, which is what career folks are pretty commonly using, the star or car or whatever. And then the drive story, which is kind of that story that tells me why I should call you. So it might be an accomplishment story, it might be an origin story, it might be a combination of those, but that's the piece of, if I'm hiring a CIO, what's your story that really shows you can solve the problems that are happening today? Because that's why that employer is going to call you today. And the more of those that people can work into their summary, like you're saying, it's got to be real. It comes from you. It's specific, but it also gives you a chance to connect to the employers and their needs. So what else can help people be authentic or to kind of show those little bits of themselves in an authentic way?
Well, I think stories are probably the most important. And one of the things that I see a lot lately with my clients is they have a pretty diverse past, employment history, or it's kind of bounced all over. And I have a job history like this, so I can relate to being a generalist. And so I like when people tell an origin story. Here's how I got here, because I think what that does is it shares what common thread weaves throughout someone's career. Because even though it looks like someone's career history might be disparate, it's not necessarily. There's usually some theme, some skill that's been utilized in each of those industries or cross functions without even sometimes them necessarily noticing it. So I would say that you can also set yourself apart branding in this aesthetically. So even how you dress, hopefully it's in line with your industry and role, in terms of being appropriate, or the type of companies you want to work for, because that can vary. The colors that you use on your resume, and on other online documents, if you have an online portfolio or personal website, being consistent with font. And those things may not apply to everyone, but they certainly do to some. And visual cues are very important. So that's something you could do to set yourself apart as well. The other thing is engaging online, not just necessarily having a profile, but are you engaging with other people? Are you leaving comments on other people's posts? Are you creating your own content with your own stories? So it's not just the story of your about summary, it's anecdotes that showcase your experience and the skills that you've picked up along the way throughout your career.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned the commenting piece, because as I mentioned earlier, when I'm looking at an account to see is it a bot or not, I'm looking at their engagements, and we all got to protect ourselves in some ways. So I'm judging you. If I see a male profile that's only commenting on slightly suggestive pictures of women on LinkedIn, not that it's their fault. They should be able to dress and look however they want. But if I see a man that's the only thing he's commenting on, I am not accepting your connection request. Like, I don't need to be solicited online, unapproached, right?
I agree.
Thinking about your engagement as part of your brand, the things you say, the things you engage with, and especially in our world today where we're very divisive and, there's a lot of stuff going on. It isn't that you can't stand for something or have an opinion, but you always want to talk about it online in a way that you would to people in person.
Yes.
And how would you want your professionalism judged by that response?
Agree. Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people seem to forget these days, is that what you put out there online does not disappear. Someone somewhere will always be able to pull that information up. So presenting yourself online at least as well as you would in person is critical because you are being judged. And you want to make sure that's the other reason why you do want to use your own language, your own responses for commenting so that you don't appear to be a bot or disassociated with the content that's being talked about. You want to be relevant, I guess is a better way of putting that.
Yes, yes. So thinking about, we talked a little few moments about the certified digital branding course. What have you seen that coaches going through this program are getting for themselves and for their clients?
Well, number one, I would say is general clarity around who they want to be known as, what they want to provide in terms of expertise to their audience, which in most cases are going to be job seekers or professionals who are looking to bolster their brand or their career advancement. And so I would say being able to tell their own story in a branded way, also having an increased presence on social media that's cohesive and consistent across platforms. And I also find that the career coaches who engage in this program often don't have a lot of experience using generative AI. And while it's still buzzy and everyone's kind of still unsure about AI, it's not going anywhere. And it can be an extremely powerful tool, both for career coaches who take this course, as well as the clients who can also benefit from those skills. So I would say one of those things is people who maybe don't have a lot of experience come out of the course having familiarity with several of the platforms that can be leveraged for these tools, and also start leveraging them. Not only just have the familiarity, but having the confidence to be able to use them to generate ideas, to create strategies, to help further flesh out what they want to be communicating to their audience.
Yes, yes. And how to use the tools in a way that still incorporates your brand and your stories, because that's the piece of it that we don't want to lose.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kate. This was great. So much going on in the digital branding space. So we're going to say goodbye to Kate. We're going to take a short break here on the Career Confidant, but we'll be back. And don't forget to check out careertl.com/CDBS for Certified Digital Branding Strategist. And we will see you here back in just a few minutes on the Career Confidant.
Thanks, Marie.
Voice America is on LinkedIn. Connect with us today.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click register at the top right.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are tuned in to the Career Confidant with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please send an email to marie@strategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidant.
Welcome back to the Career Confidant. And today we are talking with Kate Pazesnik about how you can change your digital presence to help you achieve a goal. So we know that the foundation piece is it's easy to skip over because we just want to go to what platform should I be on and what should I post. But both of those questions are really only answered by exploring what do you want to be known for and who needs to know you. And those two very simple sounding questions actually take most people a lot of time to figure out. So what do you want to be known for? This is important because when we try to be known for everything, right, you get known for nothing because it's too broad, you're too scattered. And especially when you're talking about building a presence online, if you're talking about too many different topics and you're kind of all over the place, you're never going to get traction online, no matter what platform you're talking about. So most people will talk about having some kind of buckets for your content, right? What types of topics will you be talking about? But there's a layer even underneath that that we want to think about, and that is, what do you want to be known for? What is it that stands out to you? What are you already credible in? What do you want to build credibility in? So you're kind of looking to the future. It's this combination of what have you already got some credibility in versus what are you building towards in the future? We want to find some things that connect the dots there. So I remember talking to a younger person, young professional a few years ago in my business who said, I want to go out and I want to start a consulting business. I want to start a training and development business. What do I do? And I said, well, what have you done already? What has your work history been? Because you really want to leverage that when you go out and start to build your consultancy. That's how you're credible. If you've been in accounting or marketing or whatever you've been in, that's how you want to build your business. Because if you just come out of the gate doing kind of the generic communications or, even crucial conversations, even some of the branded types of training you can do, if you don't have a specific angle, you're not going to stand out amongst the thousands, maybe even, hundreds of thousands of people that are offering those same types of training. So you want to build on what you've been doing in the past, even if you're making a transition. And that connection point between those two is so important to identify. So what does my new audience or current audience care about that I have done where I've been credible? And I kind of call the two, where these two things meet, your digital drivers. So it's what do you know? What are you good at? Where's your credibility combined with what does your audience care about? And that's where you want to pull from for your content buckets or, pillars or whatever you want to call them. But you need to have those. You want to have those identified, right? These are the 3 to 5 topics that you'll talk about. Now, ideally, those have some kind of overarching brand theme, either in the way that they're communicated or your underlying belief around how those things happen. So for career thought leaders, for instance, our 5 are career coaching, brand, personal branding, the writing piece of it, resume writing, LinkedIn profile writing, business development, and then trends in the career industry, economics. And so the trend piece is our overarching differentiator. Everything that we talk about, we post, we try to take that trends angle to it. What's new? What's the data? What's the latest on this? Because that helps set us apart from other career folks and other people who are training career professionals who have the same kinds of topics that they're talking about, right? And so having that specific way, the specific tone that we use in what we speak about, that's the differentiator. That's what we're looking for when we're talking about what we're doing in the future. And that piece of it is not always evident at first, and that's okay. So you've got your brand, you've got your brand pieces, and then you're thinking about what are the themes I'm going to talk about, and they all need to drive back to that. What do you want to be known for? And that what do you want to be known for is connected to what your audience cares about. If you don't connect the pieces, you end up with stories that don't resonate and don't create any engagement, or you end up with stories that resonate and get a ton of engagement, but they don't lead to your goal, whether that's getting hired or getting business. And you see that online, right? You see people that have, hundreds of thousands of posts or views, but then they don't have any business because they're not connecting what may be kind of human interest types of stories that gain a lot of engagement. They're not connecting those to their business. They don't have a process to engage those views or even commenters in a conversation that's relevant to their business or why you should hire them. And when we don't connect those pieces, we end up very tired because we're doing a lot of work, but it's not necessarily giving us the result that we need in the end. So once you've figured out those pieces, who are you? What do you want to be known for? Who's your audience and what do they care about? Then you can go and much more easily determine what you're going to post about. Right now, you've got your themes and you know what your audience cares about. And now you can use social media tools better because you're actually going to be connecting to those audiences. You can also use generative AI tools better because your content, people make this big deal out of your content needs to sound like you and how to train ChatGPT to sound like you. That's important. But it's more important that ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using knows your audience and knows what's important to them, because you want to tell stories that are relatable to them. And yes, AI can help you with that. But even when you're just too worried about it being in your voice, you're not connecting to the audience. And you might be relying too much on that tool that even though it sounds like you, it's actually sounding like everyone else because it doesn't have a specific audience in mind to talk to, whose problems it's talking about, the stories that it's relating to or connecting the dots. And so we've got to have both sides of the equation before we start thinking about the where or the what. So when we start to do that, then it actually can be more fun because now we've got a specific client in mind. We've got a specific idea about what they want to hear about, what they care about, what's their, what are their problems. And whenever I have a piece of content that doesn't do well, if I'm honest and I go back and I look at it, I can tell that, I kind of missed the mark. This wasn't exactly what I'm hearing from my audience in terms of their problems. Or maybe it's a problem I was hearing about a year ago, and I need to check in and see, is this still the right language, the most important problem, all of those things. And it also helps you pick which pieces of the current events and current affairs that you want to connect with and which ones you don't, and how you want to connect with them. Because I'll hear a lot of people say, if you get on the trends and you promote things that are related to the trends, then you'll always get views. Well, yes, but remember that views don't necessarily relate to your goals. And that starts this hamster wheel of feeling of just being overwhelmed because I'm always chasing the trend. And, ironically, of course, in my business, trends are what we watch is what we do. But part of watching trends is being able to identify when something is trendy and when it's an actual trend. And how do you decide that? Paying attention, looking at things, talking to people so that hey, is this something that people are really connecting with right now? Or is it just trendy? Is it something I want to be associated with or not? And those are important, and they can only make those decisions if you have the baseline figured out first of what do you want to be known for and who needs to know you. So then you can start thinking about the other stories that you want to share. And there's this place in digital branding, especially, where people feel this vulnerability. I'm going to share about myself. I'm going to share my stories. But we don't have to start in the deep, dark parts of you. In fact, we probably are never going to go there. Where we want to start is, what are your unique experiences that create the beliefs you have around what you do? So leadership. I was working with a leader in the tech space. And it's like, well, what do you believe makes a good leader in tech? what stories from your background have built that belief? Because there's usually specific stories from all of our backgrounds that make us believe what we believe. Grew up with this type of parent, had this type of boss, worked with this type of team, saw this failure, saw this success. Those stories are why you do what you do the way you do it. And that's what we're trying to tap into, at least at the beginning. So it's personal, it's authentic, it's a story, but it doesn't have to be a story about your kids, your dog, your, high school experience, whatever. At first, we're starting with the kind of low-hanging fruit stories, the ones that are easy, that show that connection between who you are, what you do, and relatable to the audience, right? Then we can move into, as you get more comfortable with your branding, you'll start to see the connections in your everyday stories. Now, there's good there, and I've also seen it go off the rails for people, where when you start to bring in too much of your everyday stories and you're not really clear on how they connect or are relatable to your audience, you actually lose people. So I've had 2 coaches in my business life that I have left because their stories started to reveal to me that they weren't connected to my situation anymore. They were telling stories that were just completely unrelatable to my size business, etc. And when we get that, it's always good to learn from people who are where you want to go, but they started to tell stories that were either just way too far away from where I am now or weren't really even where I saw myself going. So you've got to be careful that as you keep telling stories, you're always checking back with, is this for my audience? And it's perhaps that I wasn't their audience anymore. That's perhaps, that's possible. And I wonder if they were losing touch with their audience and the challenges that their audience were facing right now. So go talk to people in your industry, go talk to your, potential employers, go talk to people doing the jobs you're doing right now, talk to potential customers so that you stay engaged with what stories really matter. So we're going to take a short break right now. And when we come back, we're going to tie all the pieces together so that you can walk through the digital branding process as you go into your job search, building your business, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in the next quarter. We're almost in the next quarter of 2025. So we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Voice America is on your favorite smart speaker. If you have Alexa or Google Home, go ahead and give us a try.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast on TuneIn.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
A little birdie told me Voice America is on X. Follow us at Voice America TRN.
Are you a business owner, 1099 contractor, part-time employee, or volunteer who needs group health coverage you can actually afford? Do you know a nonprofit who would benefit from unlimited zero-cost funding? How about cost reduction, school safety, mental health wellness, and more? All these and more are fair game on Finding Certainty. If you want more certainty in your own life, you are not alone. Join us on the Voice America Business Channel. Find your own brand of certainty and realize your personal American dream with Finding Certainty, hosted by Patrick Lang. Let's unwrap the certainty experience together.
Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business.
You are tuned in to the Career Confidant with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please send an email to marie@strategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidant.
So what does it mean to build a digital brand? We've been talking about this, about how you put the pieces together. Heard from Kate Pozesnik around what it looks like to build that online visibility, to stand out from the world of bots, to stand out of the sea of sameness of AI content. What does this look like for you? So here's where I'd recommend that you start. I'd recommend starting with some of your foundational stories. Why do you do what you do? What are some of your key experiences, those memorable, loved experiences that you've had in your work? And then you're looking to draw the thread at a foundational level. So it's not about the industry you were in or any of that. It's about what was it about you and the experience that made that so memorable, that made you successful. This is kind of, we call it an appreciative inquiry process for you to pull out your own strengths. Yes, there are strengths assessments. You can go do those as well, but I'd recommend that you do it from the inside out, that you get in touch with those stories about why you do what you do, why, if you're making a transition, what's driving that transition. But even as you look to the new type of work, you're thinking about what experiences have I had that are relevant to that type of work? What have I loved about my work? And how can you start to get those stories out to connect the dots? You're looking for the skills that you've used over and over again, the successes that you've had, and what is it that is behind those successes? Who are you that makes everything you do the way it is, right? Who do you show up as over and over and over again? What is that experience like of working with you? So that might come from feedback you've gotten from other people. You're looking for what is it like to work with me, and who do I love to be? And kind of who am I becoming? What's next? And how do those pieces all fit together? But it starts, well, at least one place to start is the stories. What I find that for a lot of people, the stories help build up versus trying to say, well, what is my vision or who am I in this very big way first is challenging for most people. But when they look at the stories and they start to see the themes or get help from someone to see the themes, or even AI, right? You can, as long as you don't put in any identifying information or make them too directly connected to you online somehow, you can put those stories into AI and ask AI for your brand themes, and it will do it. It's pretty amazing. And then, of course, you're going to see, is there something that's missing? Is there something I wanted it to see that it didn't see? All of those are powerful realizations. Start with the stories, collect those stories about when you've been great, when you've been excited, when you've loved what you were doing, when you've been really successful. Gather those stories and look for the themes. Then you're saying, okay, this is me. This is who I am. This is the thread that runs through, or threads that run through. Who is my audience? Who do you want to work for now? And you want to get as specific as possible. Company types, the role or level of the type of position you're aiming for, the role or level of your target audience, the person that you want to talk to, and what do all those pieces come together to be? And then if you can find some specific individuals that represent that audience, you can even dive deep onto those individuals, right? Going to their LinkedIn profiles, seeing where they've come from, maybe running some kind of analysis on their LinkedIn profile with a system like Crystal Knows, which is now just Crystal, but I feel like I got to say Crystal Knows, or Human Linker is another one that does it, but it will tell you more about those specific individuals that are in those types of roles that are your target audience. And you're building a profile, a persona of who those people are. What do they care about? What are their challenges? What challenges are their industries facing right now? What challenges is a VP of technology facing right now? You can do your research, you can talk to people, and you can use AI tools to help you identify those things. So now I've got the me, I've got the audience and I start looking for those connection points. So what do I want to talk about that they're challenged with right now? So I can get the trends, get the challenges, and then I'm saying, okay, which of those do I want to talk about? What usually happens from there is that you get to those 3 to 5 content buckets pretty easily. These are the topics I want to talk about that this audience also cares to read or listen about. When I do that, it's easy to create a content plan. Might not still be easy to create the content, but it's easy to create a content plan. And you want to think about sourcing content, or what's the right word? Getting content from other people, as well as creating your own, as well as engagement. And actually, when I do digital branding and when we teach the digital branding course, we start with engagement. Why? Because most people are most afraid about creating the content. And creating content is more passive than engagement. It's like, oh, I'm going to create this post. I'm going to hope someone, finds me and wants to hire me because of it. No, we start with engagement because that gets you embedded into the conversations going on in your organizations that you want to work for right away. So we want to find people who are having the conversations we want to be a part of. Are they on LinkedIn? Are they in a Slack channel, a professional association group, a Facebook group? We've talked a lot about that. But wherever you can find the conversations already happening that are related to the conversations you want to have based on that exploration we were just doing. Where are people already talking about that? The trends, the industry, the whatever it might be. Then you're plugging into those conversations. You're engaging. You're asking questions. You're sharing information. Be careful about over self-promotion in the comments. It's really more about connection there, about helping people with whatever problem they posted about, sharing resources. You can share your own. You just want to make sure that you're being equitable in the things that you share. If I see someone that is only ever sharing their own blog, their own podcast interview, their own course, I just start to tune them out because it's obvious they're not really ready. They're not really focused on helping. They're just self-promoting. And, I think that the things I do are the best things too, but it doesn't work that way, right? You really want to be thoughtful in what you share that helps that person isn't always yours, because then it feels like you're really just trying to help you. So small businesses especially, be careful about that. You are engaged in the conversation. People start to see you. They start to engage back with you. Then you can lead that into one-on-one conversations with people. And sometimes you need to go faster, so you might do that cold outreach faster. But if you have time to nurture those connections and have communications with them in a group on LinkedIn chat or LinkedIn commenting sections, that's going to be an easier connection when you try to do a one-on-one. They're going to be more likely to say yes because they've seen you in the comments, they've seen you engaging, they're not worried that you're just out for yourself. When we do that, it also gives us ideas of what to post. So you can capture your comments somewhere. You can capture themes of posts somewhere. You can curate, that's the word I was looking for earlier. You can curate content from similar sources to what these other people are reading. And you build this library of things that you can share. And pro tip, organize your library based on your buckets. So if my content buckets are job search and interviewing and whatever, if I'm a career coach, or if I'm a CIO and my buckets are, digital transformation, whatever those might be, you want to start to organize your content in those buckets so that it's easy to find when you go to want to share and start creating your own content. But you don't have to do that right away. And in fact, a lot of people, especially job seekers, are going to find that the commenting and engaging gets you to the conversations you need to have to get a job faster than posting content. So it's okay to wait on that step. Also on LinkedIn, another pro tip If you're not engaging in content, no matter how good the content is that you post, it is very unlikely you will get engagement, because LinkedIn is set their algorithm kind of in the give to get mentality, that if you're not commenting, they're not showing you to anybody else. So you want to engage before you focus on content. Then you're having those conversations, you're nurturing those relationships so that you can be the person someone thinks of when there's an opportunity, so you can get those referrals, and so you can find out about openings and opportunities that other people might not find out about. We will be right back here on the Career Confidant next week, and love to hear your thoughts and questions. You can always reach out to me at Marie, Marie, at careerthoughtleaders.com. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Career Confidant. Marie Zimenoff will return again with another terrific guest next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Channel. Be sure to join us then.